Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on USA Basketball's media conference call. We just finished first practice. We're going to turn things over to Coach Popovich to talk a little bit about his impressions first day, and then we'll turn it over for Coach.
Thank you. I am.
You want to make any general comments? Okay. Let's go to questions. Samuel Rodriguez, go ahead, please.
Hey, Coach. This is Samuel Rodriguez from New Stitch Media. How is this team looking this year? How are they going to – do you think they're going to gel well together?
Of course they are. They're pros. They know each other. They know the task at hand. They want to win. So they will gel.
Thank you. We'll go to Tim Reynolds up now, and Raphael Haynes next.
Hi, Pop. Good to see you. Can you first? What is a first day like for Olympic camp? First off, and like you just sort of alluded to, know each other.
The first day is, of course, welcoming them. They're sacrificing a lot. After the year in COVID, and actually more than that, to leave their families and to commit to represent their country at this point, I think is really laudable and a great sacrifice. I don't know what that noise is. I don't know if you guys hear it. The other thing,
whoever that is,
important for today is
not him.
Seeing where we're at, wind-wise, conditioning-wise, not really knowing what every player has been doing for himself. So making an assessment of where we are physically was important. And then getting in some basic offense and defense, the philosophy of how we want to play and all that sort of thing. So those are the things we concentrated on the first day.
Second part of what I was going to ask you was, I'm sure there's no easy way to do it. These guys, yes, they know each other, but you're going to need great chemistry to accomplish what you want to accomplish. How do you sort of fast track that process and make these individuals a team? Thank you.
Well, one way, I hope to do that is to make sure everyone understands the competition. Having a healthy respect for the wonderful European teams is important because there are a lot of very good teams and they get better every year. They've been playing together for many years, as we all know. They execute really well. And the first step is that respect for the opponent, which will not be hard to get across to our players. After that, we go to work, skip no steps, and make sure that we keep it simple but efficient and effective. Trying to invent the wheel will not work. We've got to take advantage of their abilities, their strengths, and play together, play for each other with one thought in mind. And that's winning the whole deal.
Hey, Coach Pop, this is Raphael from the three-point conversion. Coach, with today's NBA, how the last 4 to 5 years, it's more of more versatility than it has been. And we don't necessarily play the, big man like we did in the past. Do you think that bode well for this Olympic team now that you're playing in this competition and you're used to the type of style?
I think so. All the other teams outside the country, they're all much more versatile also. There are people that are exceptions. A guy like Jokic who can shoot threes and he can play on the block. There aren't really that many people like that in the world. The game has, progressed, whether for good or bad, to the point where that versatility is on every team. It's not a down low, inside out game anymore. It's perimeter oriented.
Just a quick
Thank
follow
you,
up.
Coach. We'll go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure.
A quick follow up. I was going to
Go
ask, what have you taken from each year you've been here from 2002 to now that you can say, okay, now I'm using this today to help me?
Well, it begins with, as I mentioned earlier, a true, healthy, honest respect for the fact that these teams are really good. They're talented. They have more NBA players every year. They're wonderfully coached. There's so many good coaches. They've been running what they do for many years together. They're a family. It's important to them. So that is the very first and most important step to getting it done. After that, playing for each other, sharing the basketball, no one trying to be a hero will work best against the foreign teams.
We'll go Joe Bardone next, and then Mike Finger.
Hi, Pop. Hey, with now that we know that Chris and Drew and Devin are going to be out for probably most of training camp at least,
Right.
did you bring 3 guys up from the select team today, and who were they?
We brought up 4 guys that it's kind of difficult to explain. They're not really on the select team, but they're guys that have played in the league or overseas that have the ability to stay with us as we move along to Tokyo, where the select team players can't do that, if that makes any sense. And Sean Ford can give you a better answer, but that's basically the deal. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, and then 11 of the 12 guys are coming off of great years for sure, and then Kevin Love isn't, but he's here, and obviously he's got a skill set that fits with what you guys want to do. But what was it for you that you wanted him to be on board?
You just mentioned his versatility. First of all, he's been there before. It gives us a player who's been through it, and his skill set is such that he can rebound, he can step out as a 5-man and shoot the 3, and that really gives us another tool that we can use. You're right. We all know he didn't have a great year, but he's worked diligently to get his body ready for this. He wanted to do it badly, and we have a need for his skills. So we thought he was a perfect person to, play against people like Gobert, to get them out of the lane. Because as you know, there's no defensive 3 seconds and the lanes are packed. So spreading the court is very important. And depending on what happens in a game like that, he could be very valuable.
Thank you.
Hey, Pop, it's Mike Finger. I was just thinking, going back at least a couple of years, we were asking you on a daily basis how often you thought about putting this team together and how much it was on your mind. I'm wondering, now that you're finally coaching it, how close is it to what you were expecting? And just talk about that whole process of how long it took to put this together.
Well, the credit for putting it together, goes to Jerry Colangelo and Sean Ford. They're the ones that are making all the phone calls, and I was intimately involved in, expressing the people that I would like to have on the team. But it's taken all that time, those years, to do that, because you never know what's going to happen with injuries or people's interests changing or their family situations where they might not be able to come. and it's on your mind on a daily basis, not just who's going to be on the team, but what your philosophy should be. And I knew that, and if I didn't know it, Coach K made sure that I know it, because he said it was the same way for him. You can't help but think about it every day. While your regular season is going on, you still think about this because it's a huge responsibility, and it's something you want to remember as a positive for the rest of your life.
And when that was on your mind at your other job, the last couple of years, it seems like long-term development has been a big objective with the Spurs. In this case, I'm assuming that's different when you're trying to win a gold medal next month. How different is that approach than now as opposed to what you've been doing with them?
Well, I mean, you're right. With your NBA team, you got young kids and haven't been in college very often. Need more discipline, need more skill work, that kind of thing. But these guys are already there. They are, bona fide big time players. So they're not here to develop their individual games. They're here to come together, become a team, fall in love as quickly as possible, and want it as badly as foreign teams want it.
Thank you, Pop.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Go to Zora Stevenson and then to John Corrales.
Hi, Coach. I want to pick your brain on something real quick. When the team was announced, Jerry was talking about the differences in the international game versus the NBA and a lot of the rules and the timing. One thing he mentioned was just having less time in the game, 40 minutes versus 48 minutes, and less time for runs and to come back if you get down. So what's the importance of just like getting out to a good start in a game?
It's huge, especially the first and third quarters. But you can't have a bad quarter. In the NBA, you can do that. But those last 8 minutes are really important. And, sometimes that's where talent takes over in the last 8 minutes. But in a 40-minute game, there are many fewer possessions. So your turnovers become more important. Not having poor offensive possessions, even if you do not turn it over, you still don't want to take bad shots, too many contested shots, because that night you might not be shooting very well. So in a sense, it's more of an NCAA one and done thing than it is, being in an NBA playoff, and you might have a second game poor, you can come back the third game and the fourth game and go so on and so forth. But can't do that over there. So it's a matter of extreme focus, expecting nothing, asking for nothing, and being very, very serious from the get-go.
And I cover the Bucks very closely. Yesterday, Coach Bud was asked if you gave him any advice on how to handle the finals. And with a smile, he said that you told him just to figure it out on his own. How accurate was that summary that he gave?
Well, I'll just answer that by saying, Bud stopped needing me a long time ago. And I learned as much or more from him than he did from me. So I try not to get involved. Those guys know their teams very well. And the last thing they need is a Budinsky with advice. So I stay away from that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go to John Corrales and then Brian Lewis. We'll have one more question after that.
Hey, Coach. A couple questions here for you. You coached Jayson Tatum a couple of years ago with the World Cup team. Now he walks in a little bit of a different player. Can you first explain maybe the differences that you're seeing in him as he walks into camp now as opposed to 2 years ago? And the second question is just your thoughts on Ime Udoka getting the head coaching job in Boston.
Okay. First on Jayson. He was we were hugely disappointed when he got hurt. Let me just put it that way. He was going to be our go-to guy, and he was just finding his legs, so to speak, not totally confident, not realizing maybe how good he could really be at both ends of the floor. Probably a concentration on offense, like most NBA players when they come in. So during that camp and from that time to now, under Brad's tutelage, he's become more of a two-way player. He's way more confident. He's developed more skills. He's on top of that more aggressive and knows that he can dominate people. So he's much different coming into this situation than before. On Ime, I couldn't be more thrilled. The guy is a stalwart. People overemphasize O's and X's in the league. All the coaches know they're O's and X's. Everybody, it's basketball. It's not, analytical geometry or something like that. That stuff's not tough, but to understand how to get the most out of people, to develop relationships with players, to make people accountable, and make them want to play for you are really the keys. And he's got all that. He's really a gifted communicator, although with him, less is more. He's not a talker, he's a communicator. And more than anything, he's genuine. And you know exactly what you're getting. And I'm sure that's what Brad Stevens felt when he interviewed him for the first time.
Thank you. Brian Lewis, please go ahead.
Hey, Pop. Two quick questions. With obviously a gold medal is obviously the end game here, but I'm just curious. A side effect is often, recruiting in here. Players, kind of planting seeds for super teams down the line. I mean, do you expect to see some of that going on or coming out of this Olympic experience? And secondly, with drilling back down on Kevin Love, I mean, he's not a young developing kid. Can he actually get a tangible benefit out of this experience, whether that's, sharpness or conditioning or kind of getting back to what he was, the kind of seasons he would like to have? Can he benefit for that and get back to that and give that to Cleveland next year or anybody else that trades for him?
Sure. Well, the second part of the question about Kevin, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to work his ass off here, the next 4 or 5 weeks and demand a lot. And that's going to definitely get him back, into the rhythm he needs to be in to continue to play. And I think that's one of the big reasons he wanted to do this, so he can get himself back to who he was. And, we need his experience and his skills, as I said. And we'll be playing a lot of teams that, have people that are a little bit older and experienced. It's a more rough and tumble, more physical game over there. And he fits that very well. The first part of your question, whatever players might talk about, or, you mentioned super teams, it doesn't even cross my radar screen. I'm not in those conversations with them. They're going to have whatever conversations they're going to have about whatever they want in the whole wide world. It's none of my business.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Final question for Coach will be from Dan Wolpe.
All right, Pop. Good to see you. First of all, you kind of mentioned sacrifice and stuff like that. I think if Kevin Durant had said you
said I mentioned
sacrifice.
What? Oh,
the sacrifice kind of required. Right. If Kevin had said to you, Kevin Durant had said, coming off the Achilles and stuff like that and playing into the, 7 games in the second round, like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think anybody would have faulted him. What does it just sort of say to his commitment, especially kind of considering that, this is a group of mostly first-time guys that he wants to be here and be a part of this?
Right. Well, first of all, if he said no, I would have begged, cried, done anything I could to change his mind. That's pretty obvious. But what it says about him, number one, is that he loves the game. He really loves to play basketball. He loves to win. He loves the camaraderie. He wants to be part of this all the time, as we all know. And that's his motivation. At the core, that's what he loves to do. And luckily for all of us, that's who he is. So it's a testament to his character and just desire to be part of a team and have a challenge and seek the success.
Thank you, Coach.